Good morning, Quackhawks. Goodness gracious, it is a rainy day, and I can't think of anything I would rather do today than pick up a good book. So if you don't have a book, it is reading day. Grab a book and join along with me as we read Le Petit Prince. It's a big chungus. It's a big chungus. It's a big chungus. It's a poppy song. It's a big chungus,
I don't know why you guys are still watching.
All right, guys, we're back in The Little Prince, and if you want to open up to chapter 4 is very early on in the book. We're going to be picking up right there. But what I wanted to talk about before we talked about that was the idea that we live in a really tiny world. That basically the house that you're stuck in, the place that you're in right now, is very small. And that can feel like you're confined into this space, and you start to go a little bit crazy. And luckily, The Little Prince gives us a lot of insight about exactly that feeling. How do we know what is real? And why do we rely on those things to tell us what is real? So I want you guys to be thinking about that, but I also want you to be thinking about nothing at all. We're in another place right now. We're going to transport ourselves to an entirely other world as we step into the imagination of the Little Prince. It's a nice rainy day. Maybe go sit outside, watch this on your phone, or take a moment to just walk around and enjoy the weather, because it doesn't get like this in the desert very often. So, with that being said, join along with me as I read chapter 4 of The Little Prince. That was how I had learned of a second very important thing, which was that the planet he came from, was hardly bigger than a house. That couldn't surprise me much. I knew very well that except for the huge planets like Earth, Jupiter, Mars, and Venus, which had been given names, there are hundreds of others that are sometimes so small that it's very difficult to see them through a telescope. When an astronomer discovers one of them, he gives it a number instead of a name. For instance, he would call it Asteroid 325. I have serious reasons to believe that the planet the Little Prince came from is asteroid B612. This asteroid has been sighted only once by telescope in 1909 by a Turkish astronomer, who had then made a formal demonstration of his discovery at an international astronomical congress. But no one had believed him on account of the way he was dressed. Grown-ups are like that. Fortunately, for the reputation of asteroid B612, a Turkish dictator ordered his people on pain of death to wear European clothes. The astronomer repeated his demonstration in 1920, wearing a very elegant suit, and this time, everyone believed him. If I've told you these details about asteroid B612, and if I've given you its number, it is on account of the grown-ups. Grown-ups like numbers. When you tell them about a new friend, they never ask questions about what really matters. They never ask, what does his voice sound like? What games does he like best? Does he collect butterflies? They ask, how old is he? How many brothers does he have? How much does he weigh? How much money does his father make? Only then do they think they know him. If you tell grown-ups, I saw a beautiful red brick house with geraniums at the windows and doves on the roof, they won't be able to imagine such a house. I have to tell them, I saw a house worth 100,000 francs. Then they exclaim, what a pretty house. I love this little picture of an asteroid. So if you tell them the proof of the Little Prince's existence is that he was delightful, that he laughed, and that he wanted a sheep. When someone wants a sheep, that proves he exists. They shrug their shoulders and treat you like a child. But if you tell them the planet he came from is asteroid B612, then they'll be convinced, and they won't bother you with their questions. That's the way they are. You must not hold it against them. Children should be very understanding of grown-ups. But of course, those of us who understand life couldn't care less about numbers. I should have liked to begin this story like a fairy tale. I should have liked to say, once upon a time there was a little prince who lived on a planet hardly any bigger than he was, and who needed a friend. For those who understand life, that would sound much truer. The fact is, I don't want my book to be taken lightly. Telling these memories is so painful to me. It's already been 6 years since my friend went away, taking his sheep with him. If I try to describe to him here, it's so I won't forget him. It's sad to forget a friend. Not everyone has had a friend. And I might become like the grown-ups who are no longer interested in anything but numbers, which is still another reason why I've bought a box of paints and some pencils. It's hard to go back to drawing at my age when you've never made any attempts since the one of a boa from inside the one of a boa from outside at the age of 6. I'll certainly try to make my portraits as true to life as possible, but I'm not entirely sure of succeeding. One drawing works and the next no longer bears any resemblance, and I'm a little off on his height too. In this one, the little prince is too tall, and here he's too short, and I'm uncertain about the color of his suit. So I grope in one direction and another as best I can. In the end, I'm sure to get certain more important details are wrong. But here you'll have to forgive me. My friend never explained anything. Perhaps he thought I was like himself, but I, unfortunately, cannot see a sheep through the sides of a crate. I may be a little like the grown-ups. I must have grown old. I hope that all of you guys in this time don't just grow old. I hope that you use your sense of imagination to fill in the planet which you are living. Though it may feel as small as a house right now, recognize that you are floating through space on a magnificent rock that shouldn't have any reason to exist, and yet you're here. I think that's a powerful thing that the Little Prince teaches us. There's something happening when we read. There's something happening in our imaginations. There's something happening in the way that our mind works that lets us know that there's so much more than just what we see. The world that you're stuck in right now, the house that you're in right now, the place that you can't get out of, that's just one little place. I want you to imagine what's outside the walls. I want you to imagine what the world is like when it's quiet. I want you to imagine all of the things that are currently filling up with wildlife because people aren't intruding. I want you to imagine a world that is celebrating in the quiet. I'm so glad to spend this time with you guys, and I hope you enjoyed spending this time as well. With that being said, smack your claps, snap your traps, everybody yell quack. Quack.